Although they had been in remarkably good health, an 85-year-old couple died in a car crash. When they reached the pearly gates, St. Peter took them to their mansion complete with a beautiful kitchen and master bath suite and jacuzzi. The old man asked Peter how much all this was going to cost. "It's free," Peter replied. "You're in heaven." Next, they went out back to survey the golf course behind the home. They could go golfing every day, and every week the course would magically change to a new one so they'd never get bored. The old man asked how much is the greens fee. Peter replied, "This is heaven. You play for free." Next they went to the clubhouse and saw the lavish buffet. "How much to eat?" asked the old man. "Don't you understand yet?" Peter replied with some exasperation. "This is heaven. It is free." "Well, where are the low-fat and low-cholesterol dishes?" the old man asked timidly. Peter lectured, "That's the best part. You can eat as much as you like of whatever you like and you never get fat and you never get sick. It's okay. This is heaven." With that, the old man went into a fit of anger, threw down his hat and stomped on it while shrieking wildly. Peter and his wife both tried to calm him down and asked him what was wrong. The old man glared at his wife and said, "This is all your fault. If it weren't for your blasted bran muffins, I could have been here 10 years ago." Charlie applied for a job as a signalman for the railways and was told to meet the inspector at the signal box for a job interview. The inspector gave Charlie an aptitude test to determine whether he would be suitable for the position, having told him how being a signalman is a position of great responsibility when it comes to public safety. He asked Charlie, "What would you do if you realized that two trains were heading towards each other on the same track?" Charlie replied, "I would switch one train to another track." "That's the correct action," the inspector said. "But what if the lever broke?" "I would run down to the tracks and use the manual lever down there," Charlie replied. "Good thinking," the inspector said. "But what if that lever had been struck by lightning?" "In that case," Charlie continued, "I would run back up here and use the phone to call the next signal box." "What if the phone was busy?" the inspector asked. "Well, if that happened," Charlie said, "I would run to the street level and use the public phone near the station." "Good thinking again," the inspector said. "But what if that had been vandalized?" "Oh, well," Charlie replied. "In that case, I would run into town and get my Uncle Bill." This puzzled the inspector, so he asked Charlie, "Why would you do that?" Charlie replied, "Because my Uncle Bill has never seen a train crash." An old man approaches the window of a cinema with a chicken on his shoulder and asks for 2 tickets. The girl at the counter wants to know who is going in with him. He replies, "Well, my pet chicken, of course." "I'm sorry," the girl tells him. "We can't allow animals in the cinema." The man goes around the corner and stuffs the chicken into his pants. He returns to the window, buys his ticket, and goes in. Inside the cinema, the chicken starts to get hot and begins to squirm, so the man unzips his pants so the chicken can stick its head out and watch the film. Seated next to him is a woman. She looks over at his lap and is horrified. She elbows her friend Agnes and whispers, "Agnes, this man over here has just unzipped his pants." Agnes whispers back, "Oh, don't worry about it. You've seen one. You've seen them all." Sally says, "I know, but this one's eating my popcorn." A man walks into a Kansas bar with his golden retriever. "Hey," says the bartender, "no dogs allowed in the bar." "Oh, please," begs the customer. "You see, you're playing the Royals game, and my dog is a really big fan of the Royals. You're trying to tell me that this here dog is a baseball fan?" "Both of you get out of my bar," says the bartender. "No animals allowed, and you belong in a mental institution. Dogs don't like baseball." Just then, the Royals get a hit. The dog goes wild. He jumps up on the bar and hops around in circles on his hind legs. Then he does the same on his front legs. The bartender is astounded. "That is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Whoever thought a dog could like baseball? I'm curious, though, if he gets that excited when the Royals get a hit. What does he do when they get a home run?" "I don't know," confesses the owner. "I've only had him for 5 years." A blonde walks into a drugstore and asks the pharmacist for some bottom deodorant. The pharmacist, a little bemused, explains to the blonde that they don't sell bottom deodorant and never have. Unfazed, The blonde assures the pharmacist that her roommate has been buying the stuff from the store on a regular basis, but the roommate is out of town, and they are all out of bottom deodorant. "I'm sorry," says the pharmacist, "we don't have any." "But she told me she always gets it here," says the blonde. "Do you have the container it comes in?" "Yes," says the blonde. "I'll go and get it." She returns with the container and hands it to the pharmacist, who looks at it and says, "This is just a normal stick of underarm deodorant." The annoyed blonde snatches the container back and reads out loud from the container, "To apply, push up bottom." A Baptist preacher and his wife decided to get a new dog. Ever mindful of the congregation, they knew the dog must also be a Baptist. They visited kennel after kennel and explained their needs. Finally, they found a kennel whose owner assured them he had just the dog they wanted. The owner brought the dog to meet the pastor and his wife. "Fetch the Bible," he commanded. The dog bounded to the bookshelf, scrutinized the books, located the Bible, and brought it to the owner. "Now find Psalm 23, he commanded. The dog dropped the Bible to the floor and, showing marvelous dexterity with his paws, leafed through, found the correct passage, and pointed to it with his paw. The pastor and his wife were very impressed and purchased the dog. That evening, a group of church members came to visit. The pastor and his wife began to show off the dog, having him locate several Bible verses. The visitors were very impressed. One man asked, "Can he do regular dog tricks too?" "I haven't tried yet," the pastor replied. He pointed his finger at the dog. "Heel," the pastor commanded. The dog immediately jumped on a chair, placed one paw on the pastor's forehead, and began to howl. The pastor looked at his wife in shock and said, "Oh my, he's Pentecostal." A 10-year-old boy was failing math. His parents tried everything from tutors to hypnosis, but to no avail. Finally, at the insistence of a family friend, they decided to enroll their son in a private Catholic school. After the first day, the boy's parents were surprised when he walked in after school with a stern, focused, and very determined expression on his face and went right past them straight to his room, where he quietly closed the door. For nearly 2 hours he toiled away in his room with math books strewn about his desk and the surrounding floor. He emerged long enough to eat, and after quickly cleaning his plate, went straight back to his room, closed the door, and worked feverishly at his studies until bedtime. This pattern continued ceaselessly until it was time for the first quarter report card. The boy walked in with his report card unopened and laid it on the dinner table and went straight to his room. Cautiously, his mother opened it, and to her amazement, she saw a bright red A under the subject of math. Overjoyed, she and her husband rushed into their son's room, thrilled at his remarkable progress. "Was it the nuns that did it?" the father asked. The boy only shook his head and said no. "Was it the one-on-one tutoring? The peer mentoring?" Again the boy shook his head and said no. "The textbooks, the teachers, the curriculum?" "Nope," said the son. On that first day, when I walked in the front door and saw that guy they nailed to the plus sign, I just knew they meant business. A blonde decided one day to show her husband that she was a resourceful wife. So while her husband was off at work, she painted several rooms in the house. Her husband arrived home at 5:30 and smelled fresh paint. He walked into the living room and found his wife lying on the floor in a pool of sweat. He noticed that she was wearing a ski jacket and a fur coat at the same time. He went over and asked her if she was all right. She replied, "Yes." He asked, "What are you doing?" She said that she wanted to prove to him how resourceful she was by painting the house herself. He then asked her, "Why do you have a ski jacket over a fur coat?" She replied that the directions on the paint can said, for best results, put on 2 coats.